Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. We are going to speak about things that we should really be doing instead of just considering Russia, considering all these other things that we're talking about. That's going to do not a darn thing to help the average American citizen. So what we're going to do is talk about what we need to do going forward. I had a call today from the president of Indivisible Houston, and we sat down. We spoke a little bit about, well, there are quite a few things that have to get done if we are really going to make a difference in 2018, the November. We can't just sit back and let things happen. We have to make things happen, and that's where you come in. We all have to be a part of this movement that's actually going to make things happen. As you know how I always start the show, I ask all those people who are listening right now to please go ahead and share this program on your page right now. Please share this program on your Facebook wall, your Facebook page. Please go ahead and do that now so that we can get this information out to everybody, as many as possible. What happens is we all should know that the mainstream media is not our friend. You should remember what they did to good old what's her name to Miss Wolf, the whatever her name is, the Wolf woman who gave the speech at the White House dinner. Oh, she was so right, but they made her so wrong. We spoke about that yesterday. But folks, again, if you're just tuning in, please go ahead and put this show on your wall. Share this show to your wall. Let's go ahead and make sure that people hear all this information, that people are in tune with what's occurring in our country at this point in time. Again, because we know for a fact that our media right now, as she said quite clearly, as Miss Wolf said quite clearly when she gave her, Michelle Wolf is her name, as Michelle Wolf gave clearly at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you watch the network, you watch the cable news, what you're going to hear is a loop with Russia, collusion. We hear a little bit of, the Trump's doctor. Everything is all Trump. But think about this. What is in it right now for everybody else? What's going on behind the scenes to help everybody else? What's going on behind the scenes to do what we said had to be done to really win 2018? The reality is nobody's doing the work, or I shouldn't say nobody's doing the work. What I should say is the work isn't being done, and it isn't being done because everybody is completely and entirely consumed with Trump, and this corrupt organization. So anyhow, what's the title of the show today? It is the time to get on the streets or is it the time to get on the streets to demand Medicare for all? Yes, it is. Ignore Russia, subtitle, Ignore Russia and Trump scandals. It is time to talk Medicare for all. As we sit back mesmerized by the level of corruption in the Trump administration, we continue to forget one important fact. The obsession with scandal after scandal is not productive. We must walk and chew gum at the same time. Unfortunately, our mainstream media chooses not to do that. So, as the Trump administration decimated the government or is decimating the government and policies that protect and support Americans, there's a virtual silence about the things that immediately affect Americans. Today, we talk about one of them, healthcare and the Affordable Care Act. I wrote a piece that was on the front page of Daily Coast this Sunday, and that is what we're going to go over today. It is imperative. Those of you that are just coming onto the show at this point in time, I renew my ask. Please go ahead and share this on your wall. It is imperative that we do that share on the wall to make sure that as many people see it as possible. And thank you very much, Mr. Rudnan, for reminding me her name was Michelle Wolf. It's amazing that we spoke about her yesterday, and for some reason, the name wasn't coming by. Anyhow, Before we do this, we always kind of get to the news, a little bit of the news clips here. And the first piece of the news was very, very, very disconcerting. Very disconcerting. And here it goes. I posted this at egbertowillies.com. A black former Obama administration staffer had the police called on him while moving into his new apartment in New York City. Darren Martin moved back to his hometown after spending several years working in the White House and on Capitol Hill, but his homecoming was complicated after a neighbor reported him Friday as a possible burglar, reported WPIX TV. Here we go again. But, so here's the story. What is so pathetic about this incident is that it appears this is a gentrified neighborhood. Many up north, in their narrative, attempt to make racism a Southern thing. It isn't. It is an American thing, a worldwide thing. It is time to penalize people who put the lives of black men and others in danger based on their racist bias fears. Their fears are not the problem of black men or of people of color. Their fears. Hi, Patty Bray. If you act out on some fear, some irrational fear you have for people who look a certain way, that is not their problem. But in the process of doing that, you can get people killed. Let me continue with this. Then I'll say my little piece about this a little bit, and then we'll get into the program. But anyway, their fears are not the problem of black men or people of color. It is a disease they would do well to seek help for before they continue fertilizing the people of color killing fields. Reality shows us continuously that police all over the country are trigger happy with encounters with people of color, specifically black men. To my white friends, again, my dear white friends, please note the following. Whether you call the police and you specify the person you fear is, or whenever you call the police and you specify the person you fear is doing something wrong is black or a person of color, compounded by the statement that they are carrying a weapon, please remember, you could become an involuntary accessory to murder along with a cop that is unlikely to pay the price for said error. I mean, this is becoming pathetic. This is becoming pathetic. People scream. They scream at Black Lives Matter. Oh, they're divisive. No, they're telling you something, folks. Black Lives Matter is trying to tell you, they're not trying to tell you that everybody else's lives don't matter. They're trying to tell you, folks, could you please remember that Black Lives Matter? The fact that this young man that worked for the Obama administration, that worked on Capitol Hill, is moving into an apartment in New York City. Just moving his boxes into the apartment. And somebody calls in the police and says two things. There's a black guy that he's likely to be a burglar and he has a weapon. Those cops could have likely come there trigger happy and blown this guy away. I was surprised that wasn't the outcome here. Because as a black person, I can tell you something. I try to avoid the cops as much as possible. Educated, business owning, host, book writing, owner of a company, software company, all of that I am. And anytime I see a cop, my heart races. And this isn't new. This is the existence of having this pigment. We don't talk about it every day. We don't tell people, oh, we have these concerns, because who the hell cares? We don't talk about it, but you ask any sensible black person or person of color, whether rich, poor, or otherwise, and I can guarantee you one thing. They'll tell you exactly how they feel when they are encountered by a cop. But it's worse, again, when the cops are assisted by folks who may want to endanger them or create these alternatives. That person who watched that guy move into the apartment, you have to wonder if they didn't really know he was moving in and just did that to kind of scare him away and say, okay, you're gonna be a target here, get the hell out of Dodge. Look, it is never the fear of black men, the fear of people of color is the imagination of folk. And by the way, it's not a white folk only thing. I said white folk in the in my note. I'm coming to you right now, telephone, in a minute. It is not that only, all right? But the fact of the matter is black folk need to fear other folk more than folk need to fear black folks. I mean, the injuries had occurred on black people, the slavery that had occurred on black people, the bad things had occurred on black people. So how comes they suddenly become the ones to be feared? There's something that people don't really come out and say, because sometimes why raise the issue? The issue is, if you take a look at history, if you take a look at reality, you shouldn't be scared of black folk. Black folk should be scared of you. If you look at the way things occur, I'm going to get off of my soapbox, but I got very upset when I saw this report here, because it's, once again, people talk about stop race baiting, stop doing all these things. But how can you stop bringing this up when every day, day in and day out, and day in and day out, you see these incidences? Now you hear people say, oh, wait a minute, but there's much, if you take a look at what's going on in America, it's black on black crime. Yeah, I know. It's also white on white crime. It's also Asian on Asian crime. It is also Hindu on Hindu crime. People kill among their close proximities, and if black folk live among each other, white folk live among each other, that's who the people who get killed that's who kill who. So that's not an argument, people. The phone call, the person who just called, I missed you. Go ahead and call back, and I'll pick up the phone right away. If you go ahead and call back now, I'll bring you on air. But folks, we have to stop it. And specifically, my dear white friends, you have a job to do. You have to educate folks to understand where we are. You have to educate folk, because this can't go on. Folks are going to get hurt. That guy's head could have been blown off. Because, again, when they made the call, remember what happened to that young kid in Ohio? Tamir got killed because somebody called in and said, there is this black man in the park with a gun. It was a black kid in the park with a plastic gun, and they blew his head off, or they blew a hole in him. This is what happens. This is a reality. This is what many of us have to live through. This is the thoughts behind in the head. There's a systemic problem in this country. People bring up this story about what occurred at Starbucks. And people say, oh, well, they know that my office is Starbucks. That's where I do all of my blogging. They say, oh, are you going to stop going to Starbucks? Why? Starbucks is like the police or anything else, is just a reflection of society. If it's a reflection of society, why do you believe, or why would you think that those incidents couldn't happen at Starbucks? My thing is, what are you going to do about it? And in my humble opinion, in as much as a lot of it was PR, I think Starbucks responded proactively and did it. The question is, when will the cops react proactively, realizing that they are comprised of people who make up the community, and the community, because it has a preponderance of racism, will mean that the policemen will be just as racist as society, and the only way to mitigate that is to have rules and behaviors and training that mitigate your own personal biases. But not even the police department would do that. Starbucks is doing it, but the police department won't. So those are the things. Anyhow, that's not the subject of the show today. Again, folks, this is a call-in show. I had a caller earlier that dropped off. 646-716-5812. If you call back, I'll go ahead and put you on right away. Second story, though, is Amazon is now under scrutiny from both sides of the aisle, as Senator Bernie Sanders echoed President Donald Trump's criticism of the e-commerce giant in a tweet this week. And he said, you know what Amazon paid in federal income taxes last year? Zero is what Amazon paid in taxes. And look, the 2016 Democratic presidential hopeful said in a tweet Monday evening, the Vermont senator linked to a Forbes article which pointed to CEO Jeff Bezos' rise in net worth as Amazon stock benefited from a huge earnings beat last week. Bezos, the world's richest man by Forbes estimate, added, this is not how much he has. This is how much was added to his wealth just from the increase in his stock price. $9 billion to his own value as the stock shot up. Even wealthier now and owns more of the world, the richest man on the planet. The richest man on the planet. As for Sanders' claim, he may technically be correct. The company paid $957 million in total taxes last year, according to Amazon 2017 annual report. But it appears that money went to state and international taxes, and Amazon had a credit for the federal level last year due to perfectly legal maneuvers related to stock-based compensation and the 2017 Act. You guys are the ones who made. Welcome aboard, Matthew T-Man, Patty Bray, Bruce Pollard, Michael Rudnin. Look, you guys are the ones who created Amazon. Amazon was just an idea, selling something. That's all Jeff Bezos did. He's selling something. He's selling other people's products. He's selling other people's technologies. He's selling other people's intellect. He's selling other people's worth. He's selling all these things. And he is the one accumulating, along with a few other shareholders who own bulks of the stock, accumulating the spoils. There's nothing special about Jeff Bezos different than a cash somebody at a cash register. They're selling somebody else's product. He has used the defect in capitalism that allows him to benefit from the work of everybody else and accumulate that. We know what they pay their people. We know that a lot of people at Amazon are on welfare, which means even as he makes all this money, even as he pays no taxes on this money, we, the average American citizens, are buying his products because, where else in a lot of times are you going to buy? It's buying his products, which makes him more money, which at the same time, we support those of his employees who don't make enough to not take welfare and food stamps. That's a defect in our economic structure. And until Americans really understand that, they will start to tax appropriately. They will start to tax redistributively in such a manner that all ill-gotten gains, I didn't say illegal gains, I said all ill-gotten gains. In other words, a few benefiting from the hard work of a whole bunch. We have to create an economy where that is not possible, where that is recoverable. It is ethical. It is the right thing to do. There's nothing inalienable. There's not an inalienable right that says you have the right because you have an idea that somebody else executes. Remember that. You have an idea that somebody else executes for you to make an inordinate amount of money, pay no taxes for the government who support the structure of the country that allows you to profit in that manner, and you have little skin in the game. And they say, oh, well, he employs a lot of people. No, a lot of people are employed by the enterprise. He doesn't employ a lot of people. If he dies, those people remain employed. It's the system. It's the economy. We have to learn. We have to find a way to get to folks' head so that they understand there's nothing special about Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, the Koch brothers. There's nothing special in them that's different from you, other than they were able to play the card of the current state of our economic system. Until we get that cauterized in our brains, we will allow a few to continue to pilfer us, and in so doing, it means that we all of us, suffer. And when I say suffer, that's exactly what I mean. People that are working unnecessarily hard because of an economic system that allows a Jeff Bezos to profit off of everybody else. And that is exactly what is happening. He is, and people have to stop thinking that because you have an idea, you have an inalienable right to make an infinite amount of money off of it. Because you happen to be lucky to purchase land that sits on top of oil, that you have an inalienable right to that oil that was placed there millions of years ago. on a territory that is defended by us all, but you get the spoils. Your families are the sole responsible getters of the spoil underneath there. We have a system, folks, a very unfair system that unless we teach Americans how it works and why it should not work that way, will continue in the manner that it has, and will continue to create the inequalities that we have. And unless we do so, we will remain so. But anyhow, today's program is about what we better be doing, folks. I mean, right now, what we're doing is just talking Trump, Trump, Trump. The little two subjects that I brought up here from the news clips, the position of people of color and black people being abused by a terrible criminal justice system, a terrible social justice system, and it's something that you're not going to see covered in detail on news. I mean, I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of people coming and saying, look, how many people do you think got to go on TV and say, and I'm coming to the blog of the week in a minute, go on TV and say the reality. The theory, and I'm going to go back to race for a very short while, and then I'm going to go to the program. But this is really on my mind with what happened to that man in the Bronx, because he could have been blown away. He could have been blown away. So here it goes, folks. This is very important. The common wisdom now is that our society, the plutocracy, really is the one responsible for making folks believe they need to fear black men, people of color. All right? And let me explain how they've done that. When you watch your newscast in the afternoons, what you see is crime. And when you see that crime, most of that crime that you see on the regular news looks like people of color. When you watch or read a lot of stuff in the newspaper, the same applies. I don't hold it against the mass population. I don't hold it against white folks in the aggregate based on what's coming from the mainstream media to look and say, oh my God, we need to fear those people of color while you're ignorant. In other words, in your process of ignorance, for those who are ignorant, and I'm not saying that pejoratively, I'm just saying that because our plutocracy has made many ignorant. Black folks, white folks, everybody. The plutocracy has done that. So when you watch your TV, the producers, and I spoke to this with a producer at Starbucks a few days ago. If what you see on TV, if what you see in the movies, you know, I went over to China to build a project. We were building a computer well login system to blow holes in a well and log a well, all that good stuff. We built that system. And when I went over there, the fear that people had and didn't know about folks that looked like me. I remember going into the park and people running up to me and rubbing me to see if I guess a black would rub off or something like that. The ignorance, or them doing some stereotypical Eddie Murphy things in the park when somebody sees me and I'm like, what the hell? You know, all people know is what the media tells them about others. And that is what our media in America, I'm talking mainstream media, I'm talking our movie theaters, they have been programming into Americans' heads that people of color are dangerous. It's understandable. And by the way, that is by design, right? If you want to keep people separate so that a few can control, you have to have folks fearing each other. And that's what they did. And that's what they've successfully doing. Programs like mine, the intent is to educate. The intent is to tell folks how it is, and not only tell folks how it is, but do it in a fashion that they can come to the conclusions themselves and understand what is being done to them. So when you watch TV and you see what crime looks like, I ask you, and people can do this anytime they want to, go down to a courthouse where people get bail, or where people get deferred adjudication, or where people get second chances, and you take a look at what that room looks like. A friend of mine, He said when he went into that room, I think that was in Harris County about 2 decades ago. And he looked at me and he said, man, that room of criminals, because at that point he was a criminal himself, right? He did some credit card stuff. And there are a lot of people did all these different kind of crime, petty crimes, and a little bit of violent crimes, etc. And he said, I was shocked. The room was a white room. That's where all these criminals were, white criminals. But you go to the places where the folks are locked up and the key thrown away. It didn't look like that. So throughout when we talk about criminal justice system and how different folks are treated, the average American citizen don't see that because most Americans don't have any dealings with the criminal justice system. But for those who do, they know. And I'm telling you, you should know what's going on in our own country so that we could work together so that these kinds of craps that occurred in New York would stop. So that when a cop blows away somebody's head, we understand what's going on. We don't have to start thinking, oh, this is some sort of a race baiting or anything. It is real. And also for you to have an appreciation of the anger that is within the Black Lives movement right now, the Black Lives Matter movement. For all of you who think these guys are crazy or these guys are radical or whatever, what's happening right now to folks are much more, requires people to fight back. And I commend those folks who are willing, a lot of them, to put their bodies on the line to fight back. Because what's occurring is not going to change until people, one of the things that I always disagreed with Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X is I said, whenever a group believe they are responsible for giving you your freedom, they can also take it away. America never asked anybody for its freedom. America always took its freedom. America always went all over the world and took what it wanted to take. But then it asks of a particular group in this country not to do that. Work through the system. And this group has tried to work through the system for a long time. And I'm talking about, and while this is racial, that this part is kind of racial, it's not only racial. Because I could say the same thing about the middle class. I could say the same thing about folks are saying middle class, just hold on. Let's go ahead and let the rich people continue to make money because it's going to trickle down to you. Just wait. Don't fight. Just wait. It's going to come. That is what we've been asking folks to do. So when this applies racially, this applies economically, this applies medically. Oh, don't worry about, we're going to fix the medical system. We don't need Medicare for all. And actually that is what the subject of the day is. And sorry for rambling, but man, after reading that story today and watching the video on TV, and you can see that on the blog, I had to go there. I had to go there. And folks, I'm going to get to right after I do the blog of the week, I'm going to come and answer the Facebook Live because I've been sort of neglecting that over the last few days. So anyhow, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, weekly blog post. We should be out in the streets over healthcare now. We are currently spending an inordinate amount of time on issues that relate mostly to the corrosively corruptive nature of the Trump administration. From Russia to Cohen, to Stormy Daniels to Pruitt. Among corruption and swamp dwellers, these topics continue to consume cable news, broadcast news, and much in the print news. We cannot allow these critical issues to take our eyes off of the ball. We can't. We must not. Come October, the issue that is getting marginal notice by the media will explode. America will get their new Affordable Care Act options in October, and it will not be pretty. And for those who have employer-based insurance, who think they are immune to the expected inflated healthcare insurance prices, think again. Let me back up from that a second. Look, a lot of folks think, well, at least I have employer health care. Forget that. All of that's going up. You're going to have your deductibles increase. You're going to have your payouts, your what do they call those? Your option, the part that you pay. all of that is going to be going up. And all of that is going to be a direct result of what Trump is doing. A direct result of getting rid of the what do they call it? I'll remember that in a minute. It's going to be a direct result of the individual mandate. And why? Why will it be a direct result of it? Because the pool is going to get smaller. As the pool gets smaller, it means less people are paying for more. And there's a whole lot of other sabotage that occurred with the Trump administration. But anyhow, continuing, the Washington Post reported the following. The tax overhaul certainly unlocked more profits for the industry. It is not only, and we're talking about the healthcare industry. In other words, the tax cut scam, they made a whole lot more money. It not only lowered the domestic corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, a huge boon to insurers and pharmacy benefit managers, but it also enticed drug and biotech companies to bring home huge overseas cash reserves by slashing taxes on those earnings. 2, Pfizer, which has been mentioned as a potential buyer of Shire, announced an extra $10.7 billion in reported income for 2017 because of the tax changes. Think about that. One company, because of the tax break, brought in and not selling anything more, not developing anything more, brought in another $10.7 billion. Wow, what could that have done if that went directly into healthcare again? What could that have done again? I can't remember. What could that have done again? In reported income for 2017 because of the tax changes, Allergan, United Health, and Anthem have also recorded a benefit from the tax overhaul. According to a recent analysis by Bloomberg, indeed, all 5 major U.S. health insurance have announced the tax overhaul will increase their revenue this year. This year. Folks, we're being screwed again. And most of the people being screwed are Trumpsters. Trumpsters, are you listening? You're the ones that our president is screwing the most. The Trump Republican tax cut scam is directly responsible for the upcoming higher health care costs. A covered California analysis projected that premiums could rise as much as 90% due to the Trump administration sabotage. Let me repeat that. A covered California analysis projected that premiums could rise as much as 90% due to the Trump administration's sabotage. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that the premiums will go up 10% each year because of the Trump GOP tax cut scam. In other words, their own reporting, and 4 and 5, I'm coming to you next, their own reporting says 10% per year in addition to what the increase would have been. That's what the CBO says. Okay? Secondly, a recent Urban Institute urban study found that premiums are expected to rise 18.3% due to actions taken by the Trump administration. The Trump administration is intent on using inflated health insurance pricing to change the Affordable Care Act rules that will effectively reintroduce the era of junk insurance. In other words, cheap insurance that will not pay when you need it most or that does not allow for pre-existing conditions. And folks, you have to get mad now. You can't wait. You have to get mad now because unless you're in the streets now, unless you're doing these things, it will be effected. These things will be in process. Now, continuing. Forbes reported the following. The Trump administration's proposed cheaper short-term plans may not provide adequate coverage and would trigger an increase in the number of uninsured and underinsured Americans, say health insurers that would be expected to sell such coverage. Hear what I'm saying? Through their lobby, Americans health insurance plans companies Monday were the latest to weigh in on the Trump administration proposed rules on short-term plans. Comments are due by 5 p.m. Deadline Monday. Short-term plans. Don't let that name fool you. The Trump administration has said Americans need more choices than Obamacare, saying the cost of individual coverage offered on public exchanges under the Affordable Care Act is too expensive for an increasing number of people. This action is being taken to lengthen the maximum period of short-term limited duration insurance, which will provide more affordable consumer choice for health coverage, the Trump administration wrote. In other words, they're going to bend the rules that says you can buy short-term junk coverage until you get an Obamacare plan. Well, what they've done is they've extended the length of that reaches a whole year, which means now that's a way to legalize junk insurance. I can say, okay, I have a policy that you can buy for $100 a month. The only problem about it, it doesn't cover hospitalization. It doesn't cover mental health. It doesn't cover birth control. It doesn't cover any of these things that are the 10 mandatories on the healthcare from the healthcare bill. But health insurance companies Monday morning issued their critique of the Trump administration proposal, joining a parade of doctor groups concerned about any effort to reduce coverage or pair benefits. We are concerned that this proposed rule will lead to more people being uninsured and underinsured and to higher costs in the long run, AHIP Chief Executive Matt Isles said. Short-term plans can provide an important temporary bridge for Americans who are transitioning between plans, but they are not a replacement for comprehensive coverage, just like I just said before. It is clear that the Trump administration is killing the Affordable Care Act with 1,000 cuts since it was unable to kill it with one stab. The goal is to reintroduce chaos, uncertainty, and the freedom for those who ripped off Americans with profitable junk health insurance policies to return to the market. Waiting until October, folks, is much too darn late. It means we will have to live with the unnecessary pain or lost health insurance coverage for a year. Polls show that health care is near the top of everyone's concern. Americans need to be on the streets en masse now, demanding that Congress act now to stabilize the health insurance market. Politicians listen when they know the electorate will accept no as an answer, putting their seat in jeopardy. So if they know you're going to say no, they're not going to take the chance. After we put the progressive learn into Congress, or rather the progressive guys into Congress, we must demand single-payer Medicare for all. It is the only sane health care system, bar none. And we're going to the phones now. Folks, that is the blog of the week. I want you to go ahead and read it in detail a little slower than I just did, and then I'm going to come to the Facebook people in a minute. But anyhow, 415, I think you're 415. Come on in. You are on the air. Come on in. 415, you're on the air. 415, you're on the air. All right. I'll put you back on hold, and let's go to 832. 832, you're on the air.
Hi, Egberto. This is Matthew.
Hey, Matthew, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've had a comment about just healthcare in general. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've had it since I was a baby, and one of the things I've come to realize is that I'm a cash cow.
Yes, you are.
There's no motivation whatsoever to actually come up with any sort of cure because of just how much money they can bilk us for. I mean, it's not like I can not take the medicine. It's kind of a life or death thing.
Right.
And so I just I've seen the prices go up a lot since I've been an adult. I'm fall on the older end of the millennial time frame, and I can't imagine how somebody who doesn't have insurance could possibly stay alive without going broke.
They will go broke. Eventually, after going broke, when they realize that there are very few doctors that want to deal with the system, they'll eventually, when they make a call to make a doctor's appointment, they'll realize that there are no appointments they've had. When they get real sick, they'll go into the emergency room. The emergency room will stabilize them and get them to hell out of there. That's what we have. That is the best healthcare system in the world. That's what we have here. The best healthcare system in the world that kills. But what you're saying is correct. And let me tell you, you're correct about being a cash cow. On the way back to the studio here, I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about the opioid crisis. And in speaking, and by the way, 415, I'm coming to you next. I hope you take your phone off mute. Right before I got here, they were talking about the opioid crisis. And West Virginia is a very small state, but it's the epicenter of the opioid crisis. And one of the reasons why, is that the drug companies just ship drugs into that place where I think they said something on the order of 15,000 pills were consumed by the average, but I don't remember how many people in the last 10 years. Either 15,000 or 35,000. I don't quite, whatever the number, it's ridiculous. But what it is really is, when you have medicine that is for profit, when you have medicine where it's governed by a company that says you always have to look at the bottom line, you always have to increase shareholder value, you always have to grow the company, then the only way to grow a company that sells drugs is to sell more drugs or raise the prices, one or the other. And in the case of opioids, they just did both. And what they did is the drug companies became pushers. And unless Americans start looking at the reality, the drug companies are no different than that street corner pusher. They're pushing drugs. I mean, when you watch TV and you watch the news and you watch them tell you, oh, use Ambien. Ambien is great for you, makes you go to sleep. Or when they suggest that you use all these different products that for medical use, right? They're nothing more than pushers. They're legal pushers, the legalization of pushing drugs. Go ahead, my friend. Matthew.
And just for some general numbers, I had to go, because of some of the changes of everything, I had to go to a high deductible plan.
Mm-hmm.
My marked down 3-month supply of insulin is like $500+ The strips for you have to do 4 or 5 times a day at least, or $1 a strip.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use a pump, and so a 3-month supply on that's another $600, even with insurance. So it adds up, and I can't, like I said, I have decent insurance, so it's not like I'm not hurting, but I know that other people are.
From what you just told me,
frustrating.
you just told me about a $500 bill for 3 months, another $600 bill for 3 months, another. I mean, you told me a whole lot of money there. Plus, you have a high deductible. Plus, you have to pay your monthly premium. Can I ask you what your monthly premium is?
It's through my work. I don't have a monthly premium.
Oh, okay, so it's through your job. Okay, but what is interesting is most people don't have insurance through their jobs. You know, that is one of the lies. Most people are either uninsured or underinsured, or they work for a company that can't provide health care. I mean, it is pathetic that we don't have it. But the thing about it is, what I'm suggesting from this is, in fact, I'm going to give people some directions to on companies, or rather on organizations to work with, so that we can get this ball rolling. Is there anything else that you want to add, Matthew, before I go to the next call?
I had a kind of a joke. I'm white, and my wife is Mexican American. She's been here her whole life, and some of her family's been here as long as some of my family, and all that doesn't matter. But I'd like to joke with my father-in-law and how white's the weakest race, because you mix it with anything else and it's no longer white. So I guess that means black's the strongest, because I think if you mix black with anybody else, then they're still going to be considered black. So
I am not going to go there, but I'll let you as a white guy go there, okay?
I'm sorry, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, I mean, that is fine, Matthew. That is fine. Anyhow, thank you for calling, Matthew. You keep listening, keep calling. And please do remember, all those of you that are listening to the show, please share the show. Please go ahead and make sure and share this on your wall. We really cover subjects, and we spend the time with subjects that the mainstream media won't. Thank you so kindly for calling, Matthew. I'm coming to 415 now. 415, you are now on the air. Who do I have the honor speaking with? Okay, 415. I'm still trying to get you to speak. 415, are you there? All right, I'm going to wait for about 10 more seconds for 415 before I go ahead and start answering. Going ahead and start answering. 415, are you there? Take yourself off mute if you're there, 415. Okay, I guess 415 is not there. Let me go ahead and get to our questioning from our wall here. Bear with me, folks, as I bring that up. And so, okay, we got another. No, that's not another call in also. Okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to the wall from the people that are listening on Facebook Live. Let's go ahead. And as you know, I always have this great issue with my pad because, well, you know, I may need to get another computer in here with another scroll that allows me, you know, that's much better in bringing these things up. But anyhow, folks, look, this is a serious issue, and it's an issue that we cannot sit back and wait about. We have to tackle this right now. We have to start doing what it takes to make sure that that it's taken care of. Because as I told many of you already, it's gonna when people see what occurs in October, it's going to be a killing. I mean, a whole lot of people are going to be left holding the bag. A whole lot of people are going to be left without insurance. Okay, let's go to one of my regulars, Michael Rudnin. Should we go for single payer, which has a 59% poll-in support, the public option, which has a 75% poll-in point? You know, this is something that I wrote about before, Rudnin. I'm glad you mentioned that. People like the devil that they know as opposed to the devil they don't know, and they kind of think it would be a big change. I would settle for a public option because, like I wrote several years ago when Obama was going to do the public option as opposed to single payer Medicare for all, when he kind of said he couldn't get that done and we're going to have the public option, there's one certainty that I knew. If you put a public option into the exchange, eventually, by definition, the public option will be cheaper than anything else because it has no overhead, no advertising, nothing. The only overhead is the same kind of 3% overhead that you have for Medicare. So eventually, people would migrate to the public option, and they would leave the other options with so little people that those options will price themselves out of the market. So if it means that I have to support a public option as a transition to Medicare for all, so be it. Because again, by definition, it's a mathematical certainty that eventually it would be converted into a Medicare for all option. Okay, yes, it was worthless insurance. Rene Perpetua, let's see. Let it play out. Tax scam. Okay, the ACA relies from Rudnin. The ACA relies on a robust individual mandate. Not any longer. There's no more individual mandate, my friend. Trump has gotten rid of that. Rene Perpetua, I think so. I would rather listen to Egberto and discuss the issues, my opinion. Thank you so kindly, Rene. Let's see. I find it distracting, but that's me. Let's see. I should post. Let's see. I don't know what's there. I also hope that Egberto reads after the show, or is actually Michael Rudnin. Yes, I do read the things that you post. You find some very good articles on that you post here, and I do read them. Like I said, one of the things that with a program like Politics Done Right is interactivity and the expectation that we get participation from everybody, because no one person has all the answers, right? So therefore, and not only that, crowdsourcing is the best way to get a whole lot of information with not as much effort. So what happens a lot of times, in fact, there are times that I may not have a show for a day or two. And generally what happens is somebody had sent me an email, somebody had pointed me to a link or whatever that says, hey, why don't you take a look at that? And suddenly that becomes a show. And like many of you who are regulars have occurred on this show, if somebody calls in and they change the complete direction of the show, we were going to start on a particular subject and you moved it along, that is what it's all about. That is what it's all about. Okay, let's see. Perpetua. Michael, how can Egberto respond to articles when he's... all right. Melissa Noble, I'm all about those teacher strikes too. Thank you for bringing that up, Melissa. I said I was going to touch on that every single day. Teachers, you have the support of Politics Done Right. Teachers, you are the future of this country. And teachers, you are the ones that are going to reignite the labor movement, just like you have started that. And you know what is great about the way the teachers are restarting the labor movement? It's occurring state by state. And not only is it that it's occurring state by state, it is also occurring in red states. The states that hate the union are the ones that are most activated, the teachers. And why? Because they've so pilfered their educational systems that in so doing, They have gotten, I always told people that, one of the reasons I was an activist is I didn't want to, I'm a peaceful activist. In other words, I want things to occur, and I want things to occur peacefully, because I am from where I'm from, Central America. I understand what happens when people have gotten so low that at that point, it's no longer a possibility of a peaceful change. What occurs then is people react, and they react carnally, because we still have that little brain in the back of our heads, right? We still have that animal brain, that little piece that still functions. And when that occurs, hell breaks loose, and it ain't no stopping after that. And that is what, as an activist, I'm hoping to prevent by us doing what we need to do right here. And you're doing it here and listening to this and sharing this and promoting this and talking about these ideas. That is where we go. All right, let's see. Kind of crazy that richest man has a company that effectively didn't pay taxes. It's not only kind of crazy that the richest man is from a company that pays no taxes. It's also crazy that the richest man produces nothing. In other words, he's not an engineer. He's not a doctor. He doesn't heal people. What he does is he takes the intellect of other people. He takes the products of other people and just sell them. Look, I'm a businessman as well, or I used to be a businessman. I wrote my own software that I sold, and to complement that software, I did buy other people's product, but I didn't buy other people's products for cheap. And other people bought my products and marked it up so that they'll make a profit off of my product, and that's a part of business. But never did we make an inordinate amount of money. And what is an inordinate amount of money? I don't know, but you know when you see it. When you see Jeff Bezos making $10 billion just because of an appreciation of a stock, there is a problem in that economic system. All right, Bruce Pollard, back again for a boost in activism. Actually, you're absolutely correct, Bruce. A boost in activism. Let's see what else here. René Perpetua, the drug ads make me sick. Perpetua is right. Legalize drug pushers. Absolutely. What we have to start doing in life, right, is we have to start calling things by the way they are. The Republicans are very good at doing that, right? They called, when they wanted to put Obamacare down, they called the Affordable Care Act Obamacare. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to. They knew that and this is what a lot of people won't tell you in the name Obamacare, right? Those people were betting on a large percentage of Americans being racist and not wanting to have some health care plan with the name of a black man that is saving their lives. I mean, that's how crazy racism is. So that Obamacare moniker was created because they knew that a lot of folks wouldn't like to know that they're on Obamacare. And if you doubt that reality, nobody complained when Obamacare was called Kinect, which is what it's called in Kentucky. They love Kinect. They love it. It's the same socialized medicine kind of program. They loved it because it wasn't called Obamacare. Remember that. When I speak about racism being a catalyst to really screw every American, black, white, Chinese, everything alike, that's what they do. And we play into it. We play into it when we make that racism cause us to treat others differently. Now, myself, I will talk race all day if I have to. But anybody who knows me know that I believe one and the only one thing, and that race is nothing but a social construct. As such, I am better than no one else, and no one else is better than I am. We're all the same. But it is important for these guys that they do what they do, because they cannot pilfer you unless you are too busy fighting others than to fight those who are pilfering you. Remember that. They have to keep us divided, and that's how they do it. And that is how they are able to maintain a healthcare system that is disastrous. That is how they're able to maintain an economic system that is disastrous. All of these things are calculated. And it's not, and people may say, oh, but my friend is a stockbroker and he doesn't think like that. He doesn't have to be the one thinking like that. The mold has been set. When you set the mold, you just have to keep pouring the material in there, and the same mold comes out, right? So, there are a lot of good people out there supporting a bad system because the mold has been set. And what we as activists, those of us that are listening here, either with your dollars or with your bodies or both, that's how we change it. We have to educate others to how the system works. Once we do that, people's minds start to change, but we have to change. You know, it's the hardest thing to change is a mind, but once a mind has been educated and changed, that happens to me. With a lot of things that I come out with, I always like to put myself down for one specific reason, because it is important for folks to know one thing. If I can change, everybody can change. For the times that I was a homophobe, years ago, that's a long time ago, 1989 was when I got my vision of how wrong I was, of how stupid I was, of how uneducated I was. And you know what? I've never forgotten when I'm talking about people that are racist, when I'm talking to my racist friends, my homophobic friends, my misogynist friends, the reason I still say friends and the reason I still talk to them, because I said, if I can change, anyone can change. And the reality is, I understand that if you really believe that race is a social construct, if you really believe those issues, then, and if you really also believe that the Powell Manifesto was responsible for indoctrinating people into bad behavior, indoctrinating people into their beliefs, indoctrinating all these types of things, then you must have the necessary compassion, then you must have the necessary wherewithal, then you must have that ability, that required ability to go out there and not let the faults in these people change your behavior towards these people that you hope will change, by letting them understand that you are not going to let the powers, the plutocracy, control your mind to keep you divided from them. Some people say, well, you're so damn stupid because you allow folks to talk to you that way. You allow them to say those things, and you don't really get excited, or you don't get mad, or you don't want to tear loose into them. And I'm like, then whenever I do that, I serve the master's purpose. I serve the purpose of the plutocracy when I do that, and I won't. So I don't care. I tell folks all the time, we can take the hit from the uneducated. We can take the hit from the uninformed. But that's the only way we're going to make change. Folks, before I go, I have to do my one thing, and that is my ask. For all of those that are listening to me, this actually, we're only doing it once today because we had so much to cover. But anyhow, please remember this is a progressive show, and what I'd like to ask you, for all of you that have the wherewithal to do so, please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Go ahead and be a subscriber of Politics Done Right. We do good things. We are out here to do good things. We're out here to make a difference. We need a whole lot of us. I don't ask you to do what I don't do. I am a subscriber to Op-Ed News. I'm a subscriber to the Daily Coast. I'm a subscriber to Coffee Party USA. I'm a subscriber to the HCDP. I'm a subscriber to, I forget, but many other liberal, progressive rags, because I understand that if we are going to make a difference, we have to support that which is making the difference. And I ask you to support Politics Done Right as well. So please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. It's not going to be, a lot of people sit down and say, well, somebody else is going to do it. We need hundreds of people. I think we have 30-something folks. We need hundreds of people to make this stuff viable. And it has to be you. It really can't be, a lot of times we sit around and say, oh, well, somebody else is going to do it. When I chose my 6 or 7 or 8 liberal rags that I was going to support, I first went to the ones that I knew were making a difference, and then I knew that I wanted to support, and I supported that. I'm asking you to do the same. Politics Done Right, there's a whole lot that we have to do. There's a whole lot we're going to be doing. There's a whole lot going forward that we're going to do. So please support Politics Done Right. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. I guarantee you that we're making a difference, and I guarantee you we'll continue to make that difference. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Thank you so kindly for spending this 1 hour with me. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we may have a candidate tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. Still waiting for a response. Egberto Willies, Politics Done Right, and I am, what am I? I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.